Well, the election of Donald Trump has already had an impact on at least two industries, handguns and vibrators. I'm Scott Ott with Bill Whittle and Stephen Green, and this episode of Right Angle is brought to you by the members at BillWhittle.com. Gentlemen, there's a story in the New York Times indicating that a South Korean movement referred to as 4B, like the number 4, the letter B, it has come to the United States. And this movement basically is one of women expressing their independence because they have discovered in the wake of the election here that the government doesn't care about them, so they need to take care of themselves. And among the tenets of this movement are rejecting heterosexual dating or marriage or sex or childbirth, deleting dating apps from your phone, taking self-defense courses, getting a weapon to defend yourself, and in the leads of the New York Times story, it says investing in a vibrator. Stephen Green, basically the idea of this, and I want to quote these people accurately, basically they're saying, if we can't control what they do in terms of legislation and abortion rights, we have to do something for ourselves, starting with cutting out male influence in our life and making sure that we're taking safety precautions as well. And they're recommending that you go to an OBGYN. It's funny because they're saying don't have sex, but they're also saying go to your OBGYN and make sure that when you have sex that you don't get pregnant. Steve, I will say that the New York Times does not have any sense of how big this movement is, and it seems like most of the story comes by quoting one TikTok video maker. But there's part of me, Steve, that wants to say, yeah, you go, girl. Take that self-defense course. Get yourself a handgun. Get trained to use it. Is this a bad thing, or is this salutary for our great republic, Steve?
Well, first of all, just as a public service, I'd like to remind people that late at night when you're reaching to the nightstand drawer, make sure you're retrieving the correct object. It's just, that's not a situation, well, one of two situations, where you want to be grabbing the wrong thing.
Get out of my house.
And you're welcome, America, for that.
You could throw it at him.
It's criminal going, ow! Did you just hit me with a vibrator? That really hurts.
That hurt and felt strangely comforting at the same time.
So, like I'm saying, Steve, like part of me says there's nothing wrong with anybody establishing a sense of personal capability and independence, being able to defend oneself. However, when you take it to the point where you're going, you need to cut off your interactions with men. Don't talk to them. Because somehow they're interpreting this election as being men saying to them that they can't have control over their lives.
Well, first of all, we're all autonomous human beings. We're all free people, at least we're supposed to be. So if this is what you choose, well, that's your choice, I suppose. Although leftists kind of self-selecting out of the gene pool, even on just kind of a temporary basis, I'm not really having a huge problem with that, sitting on my side of the aisle. And I've also read that there is a movement among women, these certain ladies, that they're going to wear a little blue wristband to identify themselves to one another, kind of not so secretly, I suppose. And you're in a safe zone here, and that certain beta males are encouraging one another to adopt the same thing, I suppose, to make themselves look more attractive on the dating scene. I don't think it's going to work.
I'm going to simp my way into her affections.
Yeah.
Another thing they're doing is they're shaving their heads, and I was way ahead of them on this.
You were, and good for you on that. In occupied France and Holland and Belgium, as the Allied armies were sweeping the Nazis out, women who collaborated with the Nazis, generally younger women who are sleeping to get food rations or whatever, sleeping with Germans, they would be pulled out into the town square and had their heads shaved as soon as the Germans were gone. And not going to say there's an exact correlation because there isn't, but there's a little self-ID there going on. What I like to finish, though, is we used to be such a healthier country, and I don't just mean politically. I'm talking in terms of mental health. My mom's parents, when they got married, which would have been, I'm pretty sure it was during the war in 43 or 44, if I remember correctly. When they got married, she was a Republican. He was a Democrat. He got better. In fact, he got so much better, he was eventually a state senator for a term and served as chair of the state GOP. But before, that wasn't until the 60s. But before then, this Republican woman and this Democrat guy managed to have a couple of kids. They managed to build a family and start a household and do all the things that men and women have been doing happily, one would hope, for thousands and thousands and thousands of years. And this idea that an election is a cause to undo the greatest human happiness there is, the starting and nurturing of a family, get over yourselves.
Bill Whittle, this person, I'm not going to name her because, it's funny because people do this and they're private individuals and they are trying to draw attention to themselves, but I'm never one of those people who's like, yeah, go get them, just leave them alone. Anyway, the person who posted this video explains why she believes women should adopt this mindset. And it says she had already begun, I've never seen this term, decentering men in her own life around 2 years ago as a way of turning her attention back onto herself. And now she said that she's expanded her reasons to protect her health and safety, I guess as a result of this election, which apparently jeopardizes women's health and safety. She said, what really drew me to participating in this movement was taking my body and my best interest into my hands. Again, I feel like I want to say, yeah, take responsibility for yourself. You're not always going to be in the presence of somebody who can protect you from evil, so be equipped to protect yourself from evil. But it ain't a bad idea to have some male friends either. Use wisdom and protect yourself against people who would do you harm. But having relationships with people who are bigger and perhaps stronger than you and can fight with their fists might be a useful thing. Part of me, Bill, just wants to say, I hope she gets the help she needs.
Well, none of their friends can fight with their fists, so let's just put that off the table immediately.
I'm saying go get some of those.
So for be or not for be, that is the question. Whether it's just nobler to suffer the slings and arrows of Trumpian fascism or by desolidifying myself, oppose them. It's almost like the best comment I saw about this is like, holy cow, Trump has just been elected a week ago, and in the course of 3 days, he's already lowered the future number of abortions and desolidfied half the country. That's pretty impressive for a guy who hasn't even taken office yet. It's especially ironic because these women are coming they're coming so late to this party for at least 4 years now, but solidly for the last 2. There's been a movement called MGTOW, which is men going their own way. And these are men who have basically said that modern feminist women are so toxic, so entitled, and just so nasty to be around that, to be perfectly honest with you, we'd frankly just rather hang out with the dudes and play, Call of Duty and disengage from society. The fact that these thoroughly deranged women, because you've got to be fairly deranged to shave your head. I wonder how many of these women who've actually shaved their head on Wednesday woke up maybe on Friday and thought, oh, well, maybe that wasn't such a good idea.
Yeah, you never go full Sinead.
No, it's ultimate. Look, it's ultimately, obviously, it's a form of virtue signaling, Scott, the bracelets and stuff. And virtue signaling's become a term. The first time I heard the word virtue signaling, I instantly knew what it meant. I loved it. But what we continue to need to come back to is that virtue signaling is narcissism. That's what it is. It's narcissism. It's saying, look at me. I want to show everybody the kind of person that I am so that nobody gets any wrong impressions about me because everybody's always looking at me all the time and wondering what I'm doing. This is why TikTok exists. Yeah. TikTok is a way for narcissists to get the the affirmations that they so desperately need from strangers who they think are their friends and supporters but have really nothing to do with them. And my only suggestion to these ladies would be, the problem with the blue bracelet ladies is that you've got to be in fairly close proximity to tell that you're not a Trump supporter if you're just wearing a blue bracelet. I would like to propose, you could probably kill two birds with one stone now that you think about it, some form of a chastity belt. But not only does it have the chastity belt part, but would also have a large blue flag that it would extend up about 4 feet over your head from the background, so that as you're walking through a crowd of people, you would be able to tell from a distance who it was who had voted for Trump and who wouldn't. Just a kind of a safety flag that you could just have, that would you spot them right in the crowd from a long distance away, and kind of plan your route accordingly. And I'll just close with this one coy little statement. You opened the segment by saying guns and vibrators. Well, it turns out I have a small collection of one of those things, but I'm not going to say which one.
Hey, Scott, can I just say two things
Please.
very quickly? One, I love Bill's idea, but there are a few drawbacks. Number one, you go to an Indigo Girls concert, and you're not going to be able to see the crowd. Yeah, it's going to be
Sorry.
nothing but flags out there. And the other is, since Bill mentioned TikTok, I don't know who invented putting the subtitles that you can't turn off right in the middle of the screen of the video, but there's going to be a 10th rung of hell just for that guy.
I wish I could show you this document here that proves that Steve and I are both the same sort of twisted person, because while Bill was talking about that,
Oh, no.
I jotted a note to myself and said, I don't want a flag, but I do want an app on my phone that issues an indigo alert.
Great
well
minds
played.
think alike, boys.
Anyway, here's I've already expressed some of this during this episode. I mean, on the one hand, it's not really a movement here. Maybe it's something's going on in South Korea. And it's sad. I watched the video of this one person, and because she wanted to have these words on the screen the whole time, she only shot like this little corner of her face. So you see like her nose and one eye, and the nose ring. And so
It was enough.
she's talking about these things, and she can't, on TikTok, you can't say, get a gun. Okay, so she keeps dodging that language, but making it very clear that she's recommending that you get yourself a gun, that you stop talking to men, that you delete your profile on the dating apps and then get rid of that. But also, go to an OBGYN, because even though we're saying we're going to give up heterosexual sex, there's a pretty good chance we're going to be having some. But anyway, all of this, what struck me more than anything, other than the sadness for this person and the few people that were quoted in the story, is that the New York Times would really love there to be such a movement. And so they put this big picture of these women with their hands interlocked and their blue bracelets on the top of the story, and this big headline. Actually, they don't have blue bracelets, they just have blue clothing. But this big headline that says, after the election, a call for women to swear off men. But when you read the story, it's really clear that everybody they talked to in the story was already engaged in this kind of behavior before the election. So the New York Times is trying to link the election to this. And this is their columnist who covers relationships and sex. So not only were they wanted to make sure they got something in about this, but they wanted to inject it into the relationship and sex column so that we could just politicize absolutely everything. The real sad thing here is not the handful of women in the country who, feel this alienated and suddenly feel like they've been abandoned by their country, which they haven't. But the sad thing is that the old gray lady herself is thinking about getting some self-defense lessons and has one of those things in the drawer next to her bed. For Bill Whittle and Stephen Green, my name is Scott Ott. Thanks to the members at BillWhittle.com for making Right Angle possible.